Greetings, creatures from planet Earth. I'm Jeff, and thanks for joining me here on Tabletop Toolbox. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to save a world by Burnt Island Games. I don't know how to save a world. Do you know how to save a world? Well, hey, let's find out together, shall we? This game is currently live on Kickstarter, ending in just a few days, so just like it is for the planet at the heart of this game, timing is of the essence. In How to Save a World, 1 to 4 players will be investing resources into 3 different projects aimed at saving a planet from a mass extinction event, as an asteroid hurtles towards the planet Alaria, where scientists have been studying advanced life forms from a base they've established on Alaria's orbiting moon, Fortuna. How to Save a World does something somewhat common in a lot of games we're seeing these days. It blends a lot of fairly mainstream hobby board game mechanisms like worker placement, deck building, technologies to research, engine building, and resource incomes. Now, I don't have time to walk through a full teach of how to play this game, but I will definitely give you a quick summary. First though, do know that this is a prototype copy of the game, and I'm already aware of a few small tweaks to the rules and the board arrangement, so keep that in mind. Players will have workers, which in the final version of the game will be represented by little spaceships, stationed both at the planet and at the moon. Each location has multiple spaces where they can place their workers to take the corresponding action. These locations let you gain resources in the game, such as energy, knowledge, minerals, and organic matter. There's also a 5th resource, ingenuity, which acts as a wild resource and is a little harder to come by. These actions let you spend resources to develop one of the 3 project plans to save the life on Alaria. The laser project might be able to destroy the meteor as it approaches. The shield project might be able to deflect the meteor before impact. And the evacuation plan is a last-ditch solution to move all life off the doomed planet. So you'll be placing workers to take these actions, but you only have 3 workers. To build growth into the game, there are also action cards, which players start with 1 of, but can gain more throughout the game. Actions like these give players the chance to purchase more cards. Cards come in 3 types. Yellow action cards cost an energy to play and may replicate actions already present on the main board, or provide unique options to their controlling player. Blue boost cards are played when an action is taken, making the action more powerful for the player. And green species cards provide endgame scoring opportunities for their controlling player. There are also technologies that a player can research on their player board. These could reduce the cost of buying new cards, provide a conversion factor for resources, or provide points to players when they trigger specific actions. So on a player's turn, they may place their worker on an action space to take that action, where that worker would typically sit until the end of a round, or they can play a card to take an action. They can also spend 1 energy to move from the ready area of the planet to the moon, or vice versa, should they wish to take an action on the opposite celestial body on a future turn. Okay, so that's a quick summary of how the game plays, but what are you trying to do, and what is the overall victory condition? Well, that's where the game gets a bit more unique. As players spend resources to research the 3 planet-saving projects, they'll climb these 3 project tracks. They'll also be placing cubes corresponding to each project into this bag, with each advancement on each track. After all players have passed in a round of turns, you'll draw a number of cubes from the bag corresponding to the threat level currently represented by the imposing meteor. Those cubes progress the game, either filling a separate set of tracks corresponding to each project or moving the meteor closer to the planet. If the meteor or a cube is placed on any of the spaces showing the meteor icon, the game end is triggered. At that point, you'll draw more cubes from the bag to see if the laser successfully destroys the meteor. That would require drawing enough cubes to completely fill the laser track. If it does, then the laser becomes the pivotal project, and the player furthest ahead on the laser research track would get the highest possible score. If, however, the laser doesn't destroy the meteor, then you would draw more cubes to see if the shield deflects the meteor, and there's a way in which the laser could contribute to this project by lending a few cubes to the shield track. Again, if the shield track reaches the final space, then it becomes the pivotal project, and the lead player on the track would get the most points. However, if neither the shield nor the laser manages to stop the impending meteor, then the final evacuation track becomes the pivotal project automatically, and that leading player would score the most points. The failed projects still provide points to their leading players, but not as many points as the pivotal project, and that means that throughout this game, you're all trying to vie for first place on these tracks without knowing which one will ultimately bring you the most points. You can certainly jump on the bandwagon of the project with the most overall progress, but that still doesn't guarantee the success of that project. Now, in the interest of time, there are a few aspects of this game I'm leaving out, like these project tags, which serve a variety of bonuses to players who manage to collect them, like being able to trigger an action multiple times, or using them as resources to help pay for certain actions. I also didn't get into the resource tracks and income markers. You'll spend resources throughout each round, but you'll gain resources back, up to your income, at the start of each round. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I've only played this game once, and I've only played it at 2 players, so I'm not treating this like a review, but I want to at least share some of my initial impressions. On first blush, this is a pretty neat game. I will say that on your first turn, of your first round, of your first playthrough, you might not really have any idea where to start, and you'll probably find yourself flailing about initially, just pulling on this game's levers to see what happens. My suggestion is to start grabbing some of these action cards early, as well as bolstering your income, especially your energy, so that you can afford to play those action cards later in the game. But you don't want to wait too long to collectively work on those projects, as at the start of the game, the only cubes in the bag are black, which will accelerate the meteor's approach to the planet. I would speculate that, at higher player counts, you're more likely to have the laser or the shield as the pivotal project. At 2 players, despite getting quite high on the laser track, we still had to punt it to the evacuation plan at the end of the game. Also, the latest version of the game adds some dummy markers to the project tracks at 2 and 3 players to add a little extra competition to the leaderboards. I don't think that necessarily means that the game is better at 3 or 4 players, but I do wonder if the 2-player game might be a smidge more predictable in terms of which project is more likely to be the pivotal one. I don't really know, but I did enjoy playing it. It was a neat game to kind of figure out as we got into it, and I'm glad to see it funding on Kickstarter. If you are a fan of worker placement games with some augmentation through card play, engine building, and resource management, and if you can get behind an unpredictable ending from game to game, I think it's safe to say that you'd have a good time with How to Save a World. So, thanks to Burnt Island Games for providing this preview copy, and thank you for stopping by. Until the next galactic disaster, Jeff out. Cheers. Greetings, Earth.